I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is an author, mentor teaching awakened entrepreneurship, grounded in practical spirituality, manifesting, and purpose driven high performance. No other than Mr. Philip Saparov. Welcome, Mr. Philip, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me. I'm Philip Saparov, author and mentor, as you mentioned. Yes, my three books are relatively recent. I published them in the past, about 3 years, maybe a little bit less, something like that. And they all stem somewhat to some degree from my personal experience. But they also integrate, I integrate all of my life experience and all the books that I have read on my life's journey that allowed me to do things that sometimes people thought were impossible, yet they turned out to be possible. Those are some of my most my favorite outcomes.
Favorite outcome, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Philip. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. So today let's talk about the writing process of your amazing books. At a glance, these three books span manifestation, modern masculinity, and philosophical fiction. What is the unifying question or core human dilemma that connects them all?
An excellent question. That is an excellent question because indeed the theme that connects them all is the integration of spirit and mind in living a purpose-driven life. That is to say, to expand on that a little bit, it is the confluence of East and the West, of masculine and the feminine, of doing and being. Those values that very often are conflicting in someone who is seeking to make progress on the spiritual path as well as self-actualize.
Do you see your books as a sequential journey from desire to action or to wisdom, or as the three doorways into the same central truth?
It is the latter. These books, well, the Manifesting Secrets is my latest book. um it is more geared towards manifesting. It's geared towards manifesting your ideal reality, which is key. Manifesting your ideal reality, not some kind of made up reality, not some kind of goals that have been imposed by other people, institutions, and so on and so on, but actually creating our life from within, which enables us to be actually more successful and faster, in my opinion, and also in my experience. So, but that is the manifesting book, meaning we're talking more about creating outcomes. Now, to jump to Siddhartha Sets a Goal, that is my first book. I wrote this book for several reasons. Partially, it was to settle a certain question for myself. How do I make progress on the spiritual path and at the same time self-actualize? And the reason that was a conundrum for me was that I was introduced to spirituality through the work of Eckhart Tolle. And many people may know who he is. He's a spiritual teacher, the author of the book The Power of Now. It's a big bestseller. A lot of people are familiar with it. And the main premise in his teaching is that thoughts distract us from the present moment. They lead us, our thinking, our mind basically distracts us, always trying to lead us away from the present moment. And the present moment is where we find ourselves. In fact, that's all there is, because the past is only in our memory, the future is in our imagination, and it is only the now in which we are truly alive. Now, that was a very strong premise. And I began to practice spirituality the way Eckhart Tolle taught it. And I found myself making a lot of progress. I was dealing with my mother's death and really struggling with that tragedy, the most difficult thing in my life that I've ever experienced. And that teaching was really helping me find peace in my, in that newly found predicament. The problem was, and very soon I found that problem in me within about, I would say, a couple of months of practicing and really finding excellent results and really making progress spiritually. I found that the problem was that now that I'm disidentifying from my thoughts and I'm basically discounting the value of my mind and my thoughts, if that is the case, then how do I create a brand new reality? Because I was very unhappy with my current reality. The reality of my life situation at the time, I didn't like it at all. And I knew I needed to change it. And in order to change our life situation, we need to engage our mind and we need to engage our thoughts. We know that from such books as Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, The Secret, and many others. I think it's already a ubiquitous fact that most people already are familiar with the premise that we create our reality with our thoughts. Our thoughts precede our reality. Just generally speaking, as a general principle, which is true. And I was caught in this conundrum. I was caught in this conflict. How do I maintain my spiritual practice, which teaches me to disidentify from thoughts, while at the same time self-actualize and change my life situation, which requires methodical thinking? And Siddhartha Sets a Goal is the book in which I explore that question, and I've found and discovered basically the answer to that question for myself. And when I did, I decided to write this book. And excuse me. And the truth is that as I was writing the book, one of the reasons I wanted to write this book was to finalize and to crystallize that the answer to that conundrum for myself. And I believe I succeeded in it. So it is a very, very important book for me. It's my first book. I had a lot of notes for this book in terms of the process. We can talk about the process of writing. And so that made it easy, because for a really long time, I was taking notes. Oh, wait a second. This happened. So I would take a note. Oh, that happened. And I noted that. And I read something somewhere and I learned something from here, from there, from Osho, from Eckhart Tolle, from Napoleon Hill, and so on and so on. And I just simply, eventually at some point, I integrated everything into this book.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. And tell us, Mr. Philip, how does Siddhartha set a goal a take on the ancient seeker, converse directly with the modern man in escape and self-actualize. What does one era teach the other about true fulfillment?
Now, Escape and Self-Actualize is a book that I wanted to write at some point when I escaped a very difficult predicament in New York. Basically, I escaped a life of total dissatisfaction to seek my fortune in the unknown world, basically in the unknown. The book, interestingly, now that we're talking about books, this book, in this book, I take another book, a very famous novel, as a basis, kind of um, as a foundational story, which I use to explore my own escape and to teach men how to escape their very difficult and sometimes even desperate situations. The book that it's based on is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, the father. Also a very famous book. Some claim it's the greatest novel ever written. Some may argue with that. It doesn't really matter. But it is truly an amazing book. I read it as a teenager a long time ago. And then I kind of came back to this book, came back to the story rather, through watching a movie, and then kind of falling in love with that movie and watching it again and again. And you see, what happens to the hero of that story, whose name is Edmond Dantes, he's falsely accused of a crime and thrown into a castle named Chateau d'If, right off the coast of Marseille in France. We're talking Napoleonic times, early 1800s. That's where it takes place. And he's betrayed by a few people that know him, and he's thrown into that castle, and his situation in the castle seems completely hopeless because he's surrounded by walls that you cannot dig a tunnel. Or seemingly, you cannot dig a tunnel through walls that are like tens of feet thick, and it's just pure like rock and mortar. Basically, it just seemed like a completely impossible situation to escape from. Nevertheless, and I will give away for those who are going to read the book or listen to the book as an audiobook, or I'm talking about The Count of Monte Cristo, the original novel, or watch the movie. And I recommend the 2002 movie version with Jim Caviezel playing the main role. He eventually does escape, and this is not the thing is that it's not like the escape from Alcatraz where that's the end of the story. No, this is actually pretty much kind of it's still the beginning of the story, because it is all about how he escapes, and he has a treasure map, and he now has to find that treasure, and then he has to use that treasure to execute his desires, his plans. In the novel, he executes his revenge to avenge himself against people who had betrayed him. In the movie, he does the same thing, but it has a more favorable. I like the outcome in the movie as well, because he eventually comes to a realization that he should use his treasure for good. But it is a wonderful premise that a man, but anyone, a woman as well, is just that I really wanted to write a book for men. And I feel that this is a bit of a masculine story, like being thrown into a castle and then escaping that castle into turbulent waters and then being pulled by a boat of thieves and smugglers, and then you become their a part of their team because you have to survive, and then so on and so on. It's a very masculine story, and it is just such an inspiring, at least for me it is, premise that you can escape and self-actualize. And you can use that story as a metaphor for your life, no matter what your situation. See, if Dantes, this man, this young man, he was thrown there at the age of 19 or so, and he spent 13 years in that castle. 13 years, that's a long time. That's 13 years of despair, like pure despair. And then you see, then it turns out that you have this chance. If you believe that you can escape and self-actualize, this means that you have a chance to to get out of the situation that oppresses you, or you find it oppressive somehow. And you can find your own treasure, because each and every one of us has a treasure that awaits us, and we can actually go ahead and do that. But we have to. So this will be a journey, and it will take soul searching. It will take taking risks. It will take doing difficult things in order to make it happen.
A difficult thing, indeed, Mr. Philip. And what are your short-term and long-term goals as an author?
Short-term goals are to set up my business in such a way, because I am in a publishing business, because I'm publishing, set up my business in such a way as to ensure that more people can enjoy my books. So that kind of like set my business processes in such a way as to increase my book sales, for sure. My long-term goal is, I might as well talk about my purpose. It is to help people not necessarily escape and self-actualize, because not everybody needs to escape, but to live fulfilled lives and to engage in what I call awakened entrepreneurship. And we can talk about that as well, because awakened entrepreneurship is that thing that you asked me about in the beginning, like what is the unifying theme across my books and across, if I'm working with a client or even with a friend. It is always about awakened entrepreneurship. Why? Because I believe that through awakened entrepreneurship, each of us can bring our gift to the world. We can discover our treasure, and we can discover our treasure by bringing our value, our unique value, to this world in our own unique way. In our whatever it is that you do, even if you engage in a very traditional business, even a very mainstream business, you can still do it your own personal way, and that's exactly what you should be doing. Each and every one of us. See, each of my books is unique. For example, right? That's my competitive differentiation, is that I write my own books. You can definitely tell it by just reading them. You know that they're written by one man, which is me. And I always encourage people to go deep within, find out who they truly really are, and to create from that unique place. To create from that unique place. My evidence is my books. This is exactly what happened. When I was struggling, I didn't know exactly what to do. I had tried many different businesses. Some of them I simply had to leave because they were not exciting enough for me. They were not interesting enough. I wasn't willing to invest in them, to invest my time and energy into studying what needed to be studied, and so on and so on and so on. Why? Because they were suggested to me by someone else. They were not exactly my thing. And then I just became inspired to write my first book. And then I became inspired to write my second book. And every single time I had that inspiration, every single time I wanted to write a book, I knew it was exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, there's no question about it. I know I'm supposed to be writing these books because I know I'm supposed to be helping people accomplish such and such results in their lives. And this was, and this continues to be kind of the realization of my idea of awakened entrepreneurship. I wouldn't even call it my idea. I wouldn't call it my idea necessarily. It's just a name that I've come up with to describe something that many people do quite naturally. If anyone who is successful and absolutely loves the work that they do, it is one of those people. If you ask them, okay, how many hours do you work per day, and they will tell you, I don't even know. I don't. My work is fun for me. I love my work so much that it doesn't feel like work. So that's this is what I think we should be going as humanity, as at least in terms of work, because work occupies so much of our lives. We give away so many of our hours work, like so many of our living hours every week, to institutions, to our boss, or to whomever. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. We've done this forever. But now there is a new way of doing things where every person is capable of doing something of their own in their own unique way.
Well, Mr. Philip, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and Mob Book 101 review in fifth season too, Comedy 101 in second season, and Mob Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Movie 101, Music 101, our fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its second season, and my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Bible Verses 101, plus coming this December, Entrepreneur 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Philip, tell us, what are your recommended books that influence your journey?
Number one, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. A very famous book. Again, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Definitely recommended. It was one of my first books that ever inspired me. I highly recommend The Count of Monte Cristo as a work of fiction, because I think you'll be fascinated by it. It's just a fascinating book. It's an amazing novel. Other books, any book by Jim Rohn is very good. Jim Rohn is the original mentor of Tony Robbins, and one of his books was my very first like self-help book. It's a book where I learned that you're supposed to set goals. I had no idea you were supposed to set goals, and then it was like the title of the book was like 7 Ways to Set Goals or something like that. But anyway, that was an amazing book. So books by Jim Rohn. Brian Tracy. Any books by Brian Tracy are amazing as well. But to pinpoint, if I could recommend one book, Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. And thank you so much for that recommended books, Mr. Philip. And thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Yes, please. Yes, definitely read my books.
Where do people can buy your books, Mr. Philip?
On Amazon. Just look up my name, Philip Saparov, on Amazon, and you'll find my books there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Philip Saparov, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Philip, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Bodycon people, see you soon.